I didn't get the leftovers.
Okay, cool. We are live. So yeah, that it should be 24, 23, and 34. So 34 is the lowest proof, but it's actually, so we could do in descending order. They're all pretty close. It's like 107.8 for 34, 113.6 for 23, and 113.9 for 24. So we could go 34, 24, 23 to start with the slightly lower proof and make it.
Are we dealing with bourbon right now?
Rye. Yep.
Right.
So this is all MGP rye. Well, hold on. Let me do our quick break for the YouTube cutoff, and then I'll jump in. Welcome, everyone. I'm Blake from Seelbach.com and Bourboner.com. Today, we're back again selecting another barrel. This time, it's going to be from Barrell Craft Spirits. We have 3 rye barrel samples. All of them are from MGP, but we'll dive into that first. Go ahead and introduce everyone. If you watch these, you already know D from Distilled and Seelbach, and we're joined by guests. Should we say like Seelbach super customer, whiskey enthusiast. I don't know how we can intro it, but Rob Seiden. So Rob, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I can't seem to stay away from your website. So
we're never going to complain about that. Exactly. No, in all honesty and fairness, it is really cool and encouraging when people are repeat customers and really interested in diving deep into these products and kind of what makes them unique, because that's the part that we love, and so it's always fun to share that with other people as well. But yeah, so kind of what I said. So we got 3 barrels. All are from MGP. They're all in the 7-year range. I don't have the exact ages on them, but 7-year range. 95.5 is the mash bill, that popular MGP rye mash bill. And then so we've got 1 barrel at 107 proof and the other 2 are at 113. So all a little bit lower proof, but
more than our
yeah. A lot of the times you can have some of these things pop up in the 120s or so. And I'm pretty sure, and Rob, you may know this as well, but MGP goes into the barrel at 125 on their rye as well. I don't think they changed that up.
I don't think so. But I also know Barrell Craft for the while, they were also sourcing from Alberta on some of their rye picks.
They were. So that's why these samples took a little bit longer to get in. So I'd requested MGP. And I love the Alberta. I've done picks from them as well. I think it's really good, but that's not really what I associate Barrell with. Whenever I think of them, so I think of their friends in bottling in Vermont. Whenever I think of Alberta, not to say that they're better or worse, different, whatever. But I think it's just cool to have the MGP these days. I think they're producing a lot of really good rye. So I'm excited to try it. And if you're not familiar with Barrell as a brand before, so Barrell, it's funny. I actually was talking with them. Well, Joe Beatrice is the owner and the founder. Back before Batch 1 ever hit, his email address wasn't even at Barrell Craft Spirits or Barrell.com. It was from his other company. So they don't distill. They kind of have plans to distill, but what they perfect and do a really good job of is sourcing barrels and blending barrels. And Trip, what's Trip's last? Trip Simpson. He is kind of their master taster, blender, and just extremely knowledgeable guy. Been in the industry for years and went to work full time with Barrell a couple of years ago. So between him and Joe, they just have incredible palates, and it's always cool if you ever get a chance to watch interviews with either of them. They just dive deep into kind of what makes a blend special, what makes how they marry barrels together different from others. And the proof is in the awards. Barrell always seems to be top of the list at any spirits competition. So whatever they're doing they're doing it well. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the samples. So we can jump into Barrell 234. I know everybody was having a hard time reading my reading my labels.
I didn't realize you that wrote it.
That's why I typically print everything, but I was in a little bit of a hurry. And I started just handwriting them, and I knew that was probably going to cause issues, but I could decipher my own writing. So
It smells good.
Does, man. On the nose, I don't know if I get like a heavy rye. I'm getting a lot of caramels and vanillas and
I get
a little bit of mint. And
yeah, I get the mint. I get less caramel and more honey.
Wow. Yeah.
It's actually relatively sweet on the palate too.
It is. And
like super in your face rye spice.
No, I get like bubble gum and like
the
juicy fruit. Yeah, like there is a little bit of kick of rye on the finish. I feel like there is a little bit of black pepper.
Yeah.
Almost like late mid palate though. It's kind of moves out at the end.
It does. Man. And I guess just with the 95% rye, you're just automatically thinking, a dill note, a peppery nose, a super high spice, and that, but it's not always the case.
Oh, it's good. I actually get that mentholiness from the mint kind of in the finish.
Mm-hmm.
It lingers.
I may add a few drops of water to this, and it will be bottled at barrel proof, but it is always interesting just to see how a little bit of water brings some different notes out.
Excuse my cat.
We have guest taster today.
My dogs, they don't start barking.
Yeah.
They're all poised to bark.
Bye.
Well, I feel like I'm for the first time in a few days tasting quietly. Usually it's either a dog or kids in the background, so I can't say too much. After a little bit of water, I do get.
It opens it up some more.
It does a little more rye spice on the nose, but overall, it's
spicier with the water. Actually,
it's pretty soft on the nose. I kind of like that.
Yeah, it is really soft in the nose, but that rye, it kicked in more with the water.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so.
That one.
Okay. We won't. We'll just.
Interesting.
We'll keep moving. But that is interesting. Yeah. And that's kind of what I love about these is it's like, what do you want to get out of the barrel? Do you want something that just tastes like a really good MGP rye? Do you want something that tastes different from all MGP ryes, or
Wow, smelling this.
Well, that's what's nice when you can pick them, that they're not like, when everything's, rye spice and mint and dill, herbaceous. It's like, okay, everybody has that. What makes it?
Yeah. That's kind of the, and that's what I always go for. Like you said, if I want those big rye notes, I'm sure I could find 10 bottles on the shelf that have that. Yeah. So sometimes finding that curveball is the way to go.
Like there's one that starts with a W that while the proofs change and the ages may change, it kind of all stays the same.
No matter what, that it is the name on the label is easy to tell.
You know what you're gonna get when you pull the cork.
Yeah.
So the second one on the nose is very different.
Which one are you going second?
24.
Yeah.
Okay. 24. Okay.
I actually get citrus on this one.
Yeah, it's still not that heavy rye spice though.
No. You have to really dig for it.
It is. But yeah, it's like citrus. It's almost like I think of whenever they how what do they call it in the bar world? Zest or flame the zest of a
when they express the oil.
orange or
Mm-hmm.
Like a grapefruit fruit oil or something.
I do get a little more herbs on this one, on the nose at least.
Yeah.
It's more herbaceous on the palate too. And more of the spices in the front than the back. It doesn't linger as long.
That's pretty. It's viscous. Like it's a little oily almost on the taste.
And the fruit, and there's fruit in this one that wasn't in the first.
No, there's definitely a lot more like ripe fruit. Although Dee explained to us last week what the real definition of stone fruit is, but I almost get a little bit of that. So Dee, please explain what stone fruit is for all those watching.
So stone fruit is essentially any fruit that has a pit in it. So
it's the fancy way of saying pitted fruits, but
that's a stone fruit.
In reality, apples are a stone fruit also, but people
aren't. They're stone fruit.
Yeah.
See, I think more of like plum,
peaches, pears, plums, nectarines.
Okay, and that's what I'm getting from this is more of like that kind of, not full peachy, but more like plum. Like more of like overripe peach. So more sweetness than acidity.
Yeah, there's definitely a bright fruit note in the front end.
I actually got a little pop of like a cinnamon on the nose just then. I'm gonna add a few drops of water to this one as well to see. And it's kind of the interesting and the fun thing about these barrel picks is while we could probably sit and drink and analyze these whiskeys for a couple hours and how they kind of evolve over time, we're picking the barrel, and I don't think anybody wants to sit and watch us get drunk off of 3 samples for 2 hours. But it's also kind of how people drink too. I mean, you don't always sit down and enjoy a glass over hours. You sit down and you take a few sips and you start to form that opinion. So it's how's it first approached that is really important, especially.
I'll tell you, the more this.
I actually want a little more water in this than I want.
It's starting to open up. Even I hadn't had the glass that long, but the finish is getting a little longer with a little more spice at the end.
Yeah, even the nose, I'm starting to get picking up a little more baking spice.
I actually smell like Honeycrisp apple now that I've added water to it. Like I'm getting heavy in the apple.
Yeah, it is a stone fruit, so it's in the family still. I'll save my opinions. I won't. We'll taste through and then start to really have our and Rob. So Dee and I are bound at some point to have a real throwdown of what we think it. Well, fortunately and unfortunately, our palates are very similar, I think. So our preferences in whiskey are
so we tend to like a lot of the same stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. All right, so 23, 223.
Yeah, 223 is different. I get a lot of like ethanol, so it doesn't smell the cleanest out of the 3. Because I get a lot of that like alcohol smell.
That's funny. I know I got that on the first.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Y'all have better noses than me. I'm just, or I think my nose is numb to ethanol at this point.
I'll tell you too. Look at your samples. 34 seems to be much lighter in color.
It does. It definitely is. Yeah. So Rob, that's 34. For Dee, that's 29. For me, it's all how you interpret my handwriting. But no, it actually is, and I have a white sheet of paper. I'm gonna see if I can get
that's
pictures
what
of it.
Let's put it up again.
Compare the colors.
Yeah, you can see it. That's interesting. And really, 24 appears to be the darkest.
Yeah, so I was just going to say it's a hair darker.
Just a shade more.
A little more copper in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
23 on the nose is the most classic of the rye. I get that. I get the mint. I get the.
Yeah.
The only one I really get the mint on the nose.
Yeah, a little bit, and I get black pepper. It goes a little sharp for me.
This one, yeah, it's sharper.
23.
Black pepper.
It's if I'm tasting, I'm thinking of a curve of how it eases into it. You get a nice, it breaks down. Whereas this kind of it hits that sharpness a little earlier. Whereas I felt like some of the other ones, the pepper and all that, the spice was coming more on the back palate. This is a little more upfront.
Yeah. Yeah, like we were saying, this is more the classic of the.
Yeah.
What somebody thinks of a 95 rye.
But even that, it's not overly. I just remember some of those old Smooth Ambler barrels that were MGP in the same age range, and they would just be like, you'd think you ate a York peppermint patty or like just popped in an Altoid or something at times. And I don't get that. Like I get much more of the fruitiness and I think that's interesting, when although people love MGP now, we don't have to talk people into MGP, but even amongst the major distilleries that are producing huge lots at a time, there's still variability and changes in flavor and based on the lot, the run, the barrel aging. Although I had an interesting comment from a master distiller this week or last week. He was saying how if until it hits about that 6 to 8 year range, the warehouse location doesn't make a whole lot of difference. He's like, about 8 years, 10 years, especially in 15 years, you're seeing a lot of variability. But those early years, and I won't name the place, but there's people chasing after certain locations in this distillery's warehouse, and the master distiller is like, yeah, there's not a whole lot of variation on that. But with this, I assume these are all from the same lot. So I don't know if maybe it's just the oak or what it is. Yeah, much more traditional after some water.
Do you know how long Barrell had these?
That I don't know. My guess would be not that long, just because of how the sampling process went. So she was saying she was waiting for some barrels, and now that could mean she was waiting for them to come available, like somebody else was tasting them, or they just couldn't get into the warehouse to pull samples. But I don't think they do a ton of their own aging at this age range. I could be wrong, but I think most of that they're buying and shipping and then sampling out and selling.
I get lemon peel on this one, whereas the other one I'm getting more orange.
Yeah.
Only on the palate, though.
Yeah.
This one,
I don't know.
let me see. Is this my least favorite?
I was going to say, so we can make that our next step. So if we had to eliminate one, my vote would be 223.
I vote too. That one can go.
Rob?
Yeah, that was the lightest.
Yeah, not to pressure you.
I already know my favorite.
Yeah, that's the lightest on the palate.
Yeah.
And the most neutral on the nose. So that's kind of.
Mm-hmm. When you combine a neutral palate and a light nose, or light nose and neutral palate,
I mean,
5% in the 95.5 malted barley.
Malted barley. Yeah. So how'd you like it? Well, it had a neutral palate and a light nose. It's delicious. You'll love it.
In comparison.
Yeah, if we selected that barrel, we'd have to go back and delete this video, or else. But okay, I'm gonna say that one's on the sidelines. We're not kicking it out because somebody will get that barrel and they'll love it, they'll enjoy it, it'll be great.
24 are really good.
I'm gonna go back to
the water in it, and they're just really good. I still know which one is my favorite between the two, but they're both. I'll be happy.
No, yeah. Yeah, I just get a really oily, well-rounded palate on 224. Good spice, interesting finish. The nose is really nice.
And the fruit nose is really nice.
Let's go 234.
Once it sits longer, it gives you a little 234.
234 does kind of. I was expecting 234 popped a little more to me actually this time, and I actually had them reversed in my head until I just went back and tasted again. That's interesting.
That's a tough one between those two, actually.
Yeah, Rob, what are your thoughts between those two?
Between 24 and 34.
I still love the apple on the nose for this 24.
I like because it's got a fruit component that the others who don't seem to have. And it's also different. It's not, like I said, 23s, it's good, but it's more of a classic rye.
Yeah, and that's where, so I liked 24 better the first time through, but now going back.
Yeah, I get like a spun sugar or like neutral cotton candy on
34.
34.
Yeah, 34.
Yeah.
I was like, this one is just giving me more of a sweet component in 34 that I like a lot. Whereas I'm getting a lot more fruit from 34, which I might like a little more.
Hold on. So you're saying you like the fruit component better than the sugar component?
It's hard for me to pick right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of
24, but I really like whatever this sweetness is that I'm getting from 34 because
and that's kind of
not rye at all.
I think I like the nose on 34 better than the palate on 34.
And and then I like the nose on 24 so much that it almost makes me want to pick it.
I don't know. I like 34 a lot.
That's good.
I swear you could almost put that in a blind tasting and not have somebody pick that as a rye.
As a rye, exactly.
No, because I don't really get any mint. I don't get anything. It just reminds me of like you brought up Smooth Ambler. Some of the old Scout 107 when it was still MGP bourbon though.
Yeah. Not the rye, the bourbon.
Yeah, because theirs were very bright, very sweet.
It's still got that rye kick at the end though.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like it has enough of that. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Okay, well, we're coming up on 25 minutes, so we try to keep this below 30 or at 30. If you had to pick, D will force you to a vote in the spirit of the world or America right now. We'll force you to a vote, and what would you take between the two? You can't say I'll take the nose from this one and the palate.
Okay.
No marriage barrel in this one?
Yeah, no, I don't think they're going to go for that. I wish, but
I would take 24 still. I would take 24.
Yeah. I think that 24 has more complexity to it.
That's what it is.
It has more on all front, middle, and finish.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a fruit note that
really good, but I still take 24.
I agree. 24 is definitely more complex, but you know, the child in me always goes for like the sweet dessert thing. And it's like, oh, there's candy there? Okay, cool. Let's go with that.
Right. There's a lot of candy.
But yeah.
You know, is it the Halloween barrel?
Like, yeah. Yeah. If we get 234, we have to call it no.
That's not a bad name for that one. No.
But
you got a pumpkin sticker on the back of the bottle.
The thing about 224 is it's so complex with fruit note. I'm almost getting some of that crisp apple where it is like a crisp apple pie.
Yeah. It's the apple in that one that's kind of selling it for me.
And it's a bright fruit. It's not a dark fruit. It's not.
No. Which is interesting. That's just a nose that you don't get.
Not very often. You don't come
and I think that's kind of the fun of private barrels is you get to try something new in a note that you probably wouldn't pick up if it were all blended together. It'd just be covered up.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, I'm good with that. So let me do my star on here.
We're going with 24?
224. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
All right. So there it is. So I can, just in case I have to reference it later, 224, 113.9 or 113.92 proof, 7-year MGP whiskey. We don't have a bottling date yet. I should be able to get that from them later this week. Kind of get an ETA on that. But yeah, so Dee, as always, thank you for joining me. Rob, thanks for jumping in. We appreciate you
thanks for
coming and tasting us or tasting with us, and always appreciate customers like yourself. So thanks so much. Thanks for everyone for watching. And yeah, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. If not, I'm sure we'll be back in no time with more barrels to pick. It seems like the constant revolving door these days, which is a good thing.
Archive of barrel picks over there.
Exactly. And yeah, I guess we should
Seelbach because they have a great selection.
Thank you for that plug. Yeah, and Dee and I, which we should have gone live last week because we were at New Riff picking a barrel. And so that should be in by the end of the month, most likely. So be on the lookout for that one as well. So thank you all for joining us.
All right. Thanks, Blake.